Shavua Tov, Good Tavach. I wanted to give over some Torah that is just mind blowing and something that was a question for me for a while when I learned certain concepts, and that is about the story of Yosef and Potiphar's wife. It's interesting. I was learning the Midrash Rabbah, and it says that basically the reason why Potiphar bought Yosef was a very handsome man. We're told openly in the scriptures. His wife, his mother was a very beautiful woman. That's what we're also told in the scriptures. So Potiphar bought him because he wanted to have homosexual relations with him. And the minute that he bought him, and his intentions, God knew that, so God made him a eunuch. Actually, the scriptures say that he was a eunuch. So God made it so that he could not perform the act, so therefore he could not copulate with Yosef. So the other thing we're told is that Potiphar's wife saw through divination that she was supposed to have children with Yosef, but the thing that she misunderstood is that it actually was going to be her grandchildren because Yosef was going to marry her daughter. So she actually we're told, had good intentions to have relations with Yosef. But on the natural side of things, we see if her husband all of a sudden became a eunuch and couldn't perform anymore, and she sees that she's supposed to have children, so she's trying to make that happen. How is she going to do that? So she wants to do that through Yosef. Now, it's interesting that of all the characters in the Torah, Yosef is called Tzaddik. If you want to know what a righteous person is, we're told to look at Yosef. He is the example, the archetype of a righteous person, a tzaddik. So there's something very interesting about a tzaddik, and that is that the Kabbalists say, and the Hasidim say, that a tzaddik remains alive in the grave. This comes from a midrash in the Koheles. It says that tzaddikim, though they are dead, they're still alive, and that the Rashayim, even though they're alive, they're walking dead. The Rashayim being the evildoers. So there's also another pasuk in Tehillim that says that you will not allow your righteous ones to see corruption in the grave, meaning that they will not decay in the grave. In Lubavitch, we actually have a tradition. The Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Shalom Dovber, was buried, and then he had to be exhumed. And when he was exhumed, there were witnesses who saw the body, and they said that there was no decay. And I believe that there have been others where similar testimony has been given. So the obvious question is, if you know the history, you know that Yosef's bones were taken by Moshe and they were buried in Shechem, meaning that his body decayed in the grave because only his bones were taken away. That means his flesh, his sinews all corrupted and decayed in the grave. So if he was the quintessential tzaddik, then what's going on over here? What's the issue? So there's something very interesting found in Masechta Sota 36b, and I'll just go ahead and start reading it. This is about the story of Yosef, and it's going to let us in on some details that are pretty interesting a lot of people don't know. It says, Rav Hanabar Bizna said in the name of Rav Shimon Hasida, Yosef, who sanctified the name of heaven in private, had one letter of the name of the Holy One, blessed is he, added to his name. Judah, who sanctified the name of heaven in public, had the entire name of the Holy One, blessed is he, incorporated in his name. Because as you know, Yehuda has Yud K Vav K and also a Dalid because he was the fourth son, and the Dalid is the fourth letter in the Hebrew Aleph base. The Gemara relates how Yosef sanctified God's name in private. What is the episode in which Yosef sanctified God's name? For it is written, there was one such day when he, Yosef, entered the house to do his work. Rabbi Yochanan said, this verse teaches that both of them, Yosef as well as Potipher's wife, planned to sin. The Gemara notes that this explanation follows only one opinion. He entered the house to do his work. Rav and Shmuel disagree as to the interpretation of this verse. One says that Yosef entered to do his work literally, i.e. his household chores. But the other one says that Yosef entered to fulfill his needs with her, i.e. to cohabit with Potipher's wife. Thus, Rabbi Yochanan's statement accords with the second opinion. So, whichever one it was, either Rav or Shmuel agreed with Rabbi Yochanan that actually, when it says that he was going to perform his work, that this is a euphemism for he wanted to go have relations with her, and that's basically why he entered into the house. So we continue. No man of the household, staff, etc., being there in the house. Now, is it possible that in a huge house such as the house of that wicked person, Potiphar, there was no one there? A Baraisa was taught in the academy of Rabbi Yishmael. That day was their idolatrous festival day. So there was nobody in the house because they were at a pagan festival. And they all went to their pagan temple, but she did not go, for she claimed to the members of her household that she was ill. She said to herself, I have no better day than this day for Yosef to be intimate with me. And the Gemara continues. She caught hold of him by his garment, saying, etc., lie with me. At that moment the visage of his father came and appeared to him in the window, and said to him, Yosef, your brothers are destined to be inscribed upon the stones of the ephod, and you are among them. Do you want your name to be erased from among them, and to be called a companion of harlots? For it is written, but the companion of harlots will lose a fortune. Immediately Yosef's bow, was firmly emplaced. Now, his bow was firmly emplaced is a euphemism for he had an erection. A bow and shooting arrows is an erection and ejaculation, basically. It's a euphemism. Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rebbe Meir, this means his bow returned to its former state. So a bow, you can pull it back, which creates tension. This would be an erection, and then when the string is released, that shoots the arrows. And the sages say that sperm is not viable unless it shoots like an arrow. So, also in Psalms, children are referred to as arrows in a quiver. So this imagery is well known in scriptures. And the verse continues, and his arms were gilded. This could also read, and the seed was dispersed through his hands. This means that Yosef jabbed his hands into the ground. He dug his 10 fingertips in the ground and leaned upon them, which was a painful maneuver. He did this so that his physical discomfort would suppress the intensity of his desire, and his semen exited between his fingernails. So the Ari says something interesting. And I was looking at it. He actually talks about it, that the reason why that Yosef's bones why his flesh decayed is because he actually was in the act with Potiphar's wife. He was actually having relations with her, and at the moment where he was going to ejaculate, he forced his hands into the ground, caused himself pain, and then some of the sages say that the zera coming out of his hands, some say that was it came out of the normal place, and then whatever. It could be very descriptive. You could put two and two together. I'm not going to go through it. it's very it's very descript. But the point is that he was having relations with her, and then at the moment where he was going to finish the act, he didn't actually finish. So whether he pulled out, whether it was on his hands, whatever, but they say that it went through his fingernails into the ground. So the sages say that Yosef was actually supposed to have 12 sons just like Yaakov. And Yaakov really only wanted Yosef. That was his whole purpose for going to Haran, to get married, and he loved Rachel, and he didn't necessarily want to get married to 3 other women, but in the course of time, that's how it happened. But Yosef was equal to all the rest of the brothers, because all the rest of the brothers were only born because of Yosef. So in that sense, Yosef was supposed to be just like Yaakov. So the sages say he was supposed to have 12 children just like Yaakov. But because of this act, he lost 10 of them. They came out through his fingers, because he has 10 fingers. And they were transferred to his brother Benjamin. And we notice that all of Benjamin's children were named after Yosef, or something that happened to Yosef. So they were connected to Yosef. And also this is why he only his bones, his atzmus, were buried in Shechem, because he had pleasure. He had some pleasure from this woman in his flesh. And so therefore his flesh had to decay. And that's the answer. And it always plagued me, this question of, if he's a tzaddik, why did he decay in the grave? And that's it. So this is the Torah, rated X. It's interesting, Rabbi Chaim Vital, I can't remember if it was the Baal Shem Tov. I think it was the Baal Shem Tov or the Ari, I can't remember. It's brought down in the foreword of this book, Apples from the Orchard. Somebody went up to Shemayim and asked the Ari why that all the Kabbalah and everything was in such sexual terms. And the answer is that the Ari handed Rabbi Chaim Vital a pin, or he handed the Baal Shem Tov a pin or something. I can't remember. And the whole idea is that if you think you can do it better, write it yourself. So they said that pin respectively was Rabbi Chaim Vital for the Ari and the Alter Rebbe for the Baal Shem Tov, who did more than all the rest for spreading Hasidus. And so it's interesting, but most of the Kabbalistic stuff is in sexual language, and the reason being is because it's male and female. The whole entire world is male and female. God created a male and female, and relations has a lot to do with the world and how it runs, and basically the bottom line and intention of creation, which is to duplicate. We're supposed to duplicate God. We were created in God's image, and our children are supposed to duplicate us, so that becomes the intention and the great mitzvah to procreate, to bring life into the world, another form of godliness. And this is understood through relations, and that's why it was tachana for a long time to not be able to study Kabbalah and stuff, because some of it was so much of it was couched into sexual language that a person needed to be married to understand it. So therefore, you couldn't study Kabbalah unless you were married. In our days, these tikkun do not apply anymore. It's actually a big mitzvah to spread Kabbalah and Hasidus, and that's where we are. We're at Hafatzas Mayanis, and that wellspring should spread out. And so, thanks for listening. Secrets of the Torah, Torah rated X.